a new macroeconomic broadcast. Here, waiting for you answer your questions. It is pleasure to speak. Today we'll talk about the term Brexit. I am Brigitte Medellín Carbonero and company with Juan Camilo Beltrán. Background Brexit. The United Kingdom is a small and relatively open economy with a gross trade opening that somewhat its export and imports over the gross domestic product. The United Kingdom exit from the European Union, also popularly known as Brexit, an acronym for the English words Britain and exit, is an ongoing political process that says the abandonment by the United Kingdom of its status a member state of the European Union. Following a referendum held on June 23, 2016, in which 51.9% of voters supported leaving the European Union, the government invoked Article 50 of the Treaty on European Union, initiating a two-year process that was to end with the departure of the United Kingdom on March 29, 2019. That deadline was first extended to April 12, 2019. The deadline was again extended to October 31, 2019. For the third time, the deadline was again extended to January 31, 2020. After that day, and unless other with agreed, the United Kingdom will automatically leave the European Union without agreement. Geographically, of the 9 regions that make England, 8 won't leave the only sections was Greater London, the remain won't comfortably be 60 to 30%, but the age was the determining factor. 63% of young people between 18 and 24 choose to stay in the European Union. They are those well fit integrate into the world, who are not afraid of change and who do not want to return a path they do not know. Instead, 60% of those over 60 opted out. Many of them are unemployed or have precarious jobs and are afraid of society they do not understand. They remain also won categorically in Northern Ireland by 55 to 34.2% and even more in Scotland by 62 to 38%. This result opened the door of the two debates on a future second referendum of independence in the latter country. After that day, after the withdrawal agreement was definitively approved at midnight hours on Friday, 31 January, the United Kingdom automatically left the European Union at 23 hours British time of that day. Under the agreement, there will be a transition period until December 31, 2020, by which the United Kingdom will remain in the European market and citizens and business will not notice difference. More than 4 years have passed since the referendum in which the United Kingdom voted in favor of Brexit. We call it the complete divorce, with the European Union informally happening on January 31st, 2020. The United Kingdom joined the European Community 1973 for economic reasons only. In 1992, the Maastricht Treaty was signed in the direction of a monetary union and integration of countries without the euro as their currency. It doesn't belong to the chain agreement in which it is possible to travel without migration control. In 2014, Minister David Cameron, the Conservative, called for a referendum in June 2016, which was successful and generated political uncertainty. The political parliament totally divided. Three ministers questions about functioning of the monarchical power. This request was an individualistic doubt to maintain the control of the country itself, not Prime Minister Boris Johnson or the Conservative Party encouraged compliance. The transitional period begins on February 1st, 2020 and ends on December 31st, 2020. This period can be extended only once for 1 or 2 more years. The decision on this must be taken jointly with EU and the UK before 1st July 2020. On October 15, 2020 began an announcement on the status of negotiation on the rights. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, asked Prime Minister Boris Johnson that states in the process on this agreement. The conflicts of interest of each country, a fair agreement from which both parties benefit. The European Union believes that a necessary concession must be made and this sovereign legislative idea must be abandoned. Activities such as fishing will be harmed at its focus on negotiations. A massive Brexit would not be good for Europe. It will be a real disaster for Britain and its citizens, said German Finance Minister Olaf Scholz. This policy was proposed to ensure that there will be no competition with commercial advantage between either party. The EU and UK, while abounding a border infrastructure between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, not imposing a border has been a crucial point in order not to undermine the Northern Ireland peace process.
Britain is the contraction of the word Britain and exit, become the preferred abbreviation for the proposal that Great Britain cessed from the European Union and change its relationship with the bloc on trade, security and migration. Britain has been debating the pros and cons of membership in a European community of nations almost from the moment the idea was first raised. It held its first referendum on membership in what it was then called the European Economic Community in 1975, less than 3 years after its accession. At the time, 67% of the voters supported belonging to the bloc, but the debate didn't end there. In 2030, the Prime Minister David Cameron promised a national referendum on membership of the European Union with the idea of settling the matter once and for all. The option presented the voters worldwide to back, stay or leave, and Cameron was convinced that stay would win without a hitch. It was a serious miscalculation. By the time the British went to the polls on June 23, 2000, a refugee crisis had made migration a hot topic across Europe. Meanwhile, the campaign to leave was accused of relying on lies and violating electoral laws. In the end, It turned out that 52% of voters supported leaving the bloc, despite the fact that it was not well defined. It was the end of the debate. Brexit advocates had to propose a tackled question of the one would come next. Even now that Britain has established the terms of its departure, it was unclear what kind of relationship with the European Union it was for the future in a use that could be as divisive and withdrawal debate. How was the vote distributed? The majority voters in England and Wales support Brexit, especially in rural areas and smaller cities that manage and outstrip the majority supporters of voters in London, in Scotland, and Northern Ireland to stay on the bloc. The young people voted mostly to stay, while the older ones wanted to leave. Why is it so important? Europe is Britain's most important market for the export and the largest source of foreign investment, while membership in the bloc has helped London to consolidate its position as a global financial center. From time to time, major companies have announced that they are leaving Britain because of Brexit or at least have tended to do so. Among companies considering relocating is Airbus, which employs 14,000 people and supports more than 1,000 other jobs. The government has projected that in 15 years the country economy would be 4 to 9% smaller if Britain left the European Union than if it stayed, depending on how to the exit is made. Theresa May has a promise that Brexit would end free movement, and that is the right of people in the rest of the Europe to work and live in Britain. It was a triumph for the working class, many of whom seen migration threatening their jobs. But ending free movement would be reciprocal, and this discovered young British people who want to study or work abroad. What happened on January? Although January 31 marked a symbolic milestone, it was simply the beginning of a potentially more volatile chapter of a turbulent divorce, in which political and business leaders discussed and Brexit, what Brexit will look like. Each path carries risks for Johnson, even more so after an election support by voters in former Labour strongholds in the north and centre of England, who are expected to suffer as trade barriers with Europe and stalled. And time is running. The end of the transition period is December 31, and requests to extend that deadline must be made before June. However, Johnson has repeatedly promised to complete the autumn by the end of the year. In the keeps his word, Britain in the European Union will have to reach an agreement regulating trade across the English Channel in the expected manner. For example, renegotiation to 2060 Canada-European Union trade agreement took 7 years.
Consequence. Now, Euroscepticism in the UK has grown to force the Brexit. The citizens' decision to disassociate the UK from the EU is an unprecedented event in the process of European integration that culminates a history of ambiguous relations between the two parties. The very sectional British supported the geographical, historical, and cultural basis together with the country Eurosceptic tradition and the ambivalence and even hostility of the national leaders towards the project of European integration have combined with elements of a conjunctural nature to explain the decision of the British population to leave the EU. The British would stop contributing to European budget, but they will also lose their trade privilege. From now on, the UK will be foreign country, and these companies will have to pay more tax and thus to do business with EU companies. Brexit as a threat but also as opportunity. The Brexit will lead to weakening on the European single market and it is relatively quiet in the world economy, causing a decline in the European Union's share of international trade. The unemployment rate could increase. Housing prices could also fall by 25% to 35% in the 3 years. It could lead to an economic recession, as other financial institutions have said. They will suffer the effects of the instability of financial markets. A fact will force them to face a possibility reduction in foreign investment. The strengthening of the dollar and the increase in the cost of loans directly will prevent people from Latin America from migrating. There are already experienced in part of Europe and United States. Displacement of commercial traffic in favor of United Kingdom since many products could benefit from the more than probably tariff advantage that a substantive free trade agreement would have between the United Kingdom and the EU using is a bridgehead to enter Europe. For example, the economic study that had analyzed the impact of Brexit on the Spanish economy. However, the close relationship between both countries allowed used to suspect that it would have impact significant. The United Kingdom is the fifth largest investor in Spain, with a total of 700 companies with an investing stock of close to 65 million euros. Spanish universities actively collaborate with British University, which are the main recipients of research funds from the EU. The effect that Brexit can have on the production scientific of British universities will indirectly impact on Spanish universities. Finally, Spain and the United Kingdom share a border in the Gibraltar countryside, although the sovereignty on the roadscapes economic analysis reached on the free movement of people could have repercussions on the local economy of population near Gibraltar. Any legislative change derived from the Brexit could mean the loss in profitability finances of Spain's credit institutions and the pressure of the point of higher costs. International trade such as tariff barriers would mean a strong economic loss for the interests of Spanish companies.
Conclusions. Although the United Kingdom will have advantage when leaving the European Union, such as recovering part of a budget allocated in previous years to community police and also stopping paying taxes to the European Union, which was also one of the causes of the departure, in keeping in mind that the United Kingdom was one of the strongest economies in the Union, along with the Germany had to subside on many occasions from the crisis of its neighboring countries. They will also lose benefits they had when they belonged to the European Union, since have begun to be foreign country and English companies will have to start paying taxes when they have to business belonging to countries of the European Union. Another benefit that the British will lose is free mobility in the countries of the European Union, having on many occasions to request visas or work permits affecting the young population who had a broad work spectrum. However, in general terms, it can be concluded it was a not good option for the British to leave the Union due to all the advantage they had achieved